This conference will now be recorded.
In yesterday's session, we were discussing about what is monitoring, what is application monitoring, what is server monitoring, what do you mean by Prometheus with respect to server monitoring and application monitoring. And we discussed theoretically about what is Prometheus server, exporters, alert manager, and Grafana. And also we discussed about the architecture of Prometheus, how it looks. Now we'll try to set up a Prometheus and Grafana to monitor our servers as well as our Kubernetes cluster. As I already told, even though you are not at all using containers, you are not at all using containers and you are not at all using Kubernetes, is it possible to use Prometheus, Grafana, Alert Manager and all these things for the other applications also? Yes. You can download, you can download Prometheus and install in a virtualized manner also. So Prometheus, this is the official website of Prometheus. This is the official website of Prometheus, prometheus.io. So here you can start downloading this Prometheus software, that Prometheus server software as a tar file, server software as a tar file for Linux or Windows. You can download this alert manager software also as a tar file and extract and install. These are like exporters for different requirement, different exporters are there. Suppose if I want to monitor my nodes hardware related metrics like CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, I can download this node exporter and use. Suppose I want to monitor some databases like MySQL, there is a MySQLD exporter. Like this, there are a lot of exporters available. You can use all these softwares and available, and you can install in a normal virtualized or physical machines or virtual machines also. But also his Prometheus is providing Docker images also, Docker images for most officially maintained Prometheus components. Yes. So if you are using containerized environments like Docker and Docker Swarm, can I deploy this Prometheus alert manager, this node exporters and whatever is required as a containers also if I'm using Docker and Docker Swarm? Yes. If I am using Docker and Kubernetes, if I am using Docker and Kubernetes, can I use these images to create a containers in the pods, in a Kubernetes pods as a containers? Yes, we can do that. Now, if it is a Kubernetes, right? Is it recommended to create a pods directly? Like I need to use Prometheus, I need to use Alert Manager, I need to use a node exporter. All these things needs to be deployed in my Kubernetes if I'm using Kubernetes. Is it recommended to create a pods directly for this Prometheus, Alert Manager, a node exporter? No. So can I go with the deployment or stateful set? Deployment or stateful set? Yes. Because Prometheus, Prometheus will pull the metrics and Prometheus will store the data. Prometheus will maintain the data. Do I need to use volumes along with the deployment? If I have using as a deployment, do I need to use volumes, persistent volumes? Because if the Prometheus pod is deleted and recreated, do we have the data? Whatever data the Prometheus has already scrapped if you are not using volumes? No. You can use deployment with a deployment with volumes to deploy Prometheus, or can I use a stateful set also as a stateful set using that by default stateful set will use volumes, or deployment with volumes or stateful set I can use to deploy the Prometheus. And also, do I need to create a service for Prometheus? Do I need to create a service for Prometheus if I want to deploy in Kubernetes to access that Prometheus? Do I need to create a service, Kubernetes service? Yes. And also, as I already told, Prometheus has some settings file. Prometheus has some settings file, some values file. So in this Prometheus.values file, we are going to have some kind of a settings like a scrap interval, like maybe 10 seconds, 20 seconds, like this. And we have a target, static targets, dynamic targets. We have a prometheus.values file, and also we have a alert rules.values file where I can define alert rules. So these are kind of a Prometheus settings, Prometheus configurations. So how can I pass these configurations to my Prometheus based on my requirement at runtime? How can I pass these configurations as a files, these prometheus.amls or alert values.amls, like this if I'm using Kubernetes at runtime based on your requirement? How can I modify these prometheus.values or alert manager.values as per your requirement? Now Prometheus has some values file. Values. So if you see the official website, website itself, you can see Prometheus configurations, right? Prometheus configurations. Like we have some kind of a values file. We have some kind of a values file in the Prometheus, right? We have some kind of a values file. When it is installing, we can install like a container or a pod also. And if you see there is a configuration, that configuration is basically values. We have a values file, Prometheus.values file, where I can define a lot of things. I can define this lot of things, Prometheus configurations like scrap interval, timeout, metrics path, where it has to metric the path, gather the metrics, and this static targets or service discovery, all these settings. We have some settings file, kind of a values file. This file is written in a YML format, right? This we call it as a values file. Now I need to pass these configurations. If it is a Kubernetes, this configuration is this YML is part of within your pod, within your container. Then how can I pass these configurations as per my requirement? I want to change this scrap interval. I want to define my alert rules, different settings I need to modify. How can I use? We already discussed, guys. That is where your knowledge has to be applied. Whatever you learned, you need to apply that knowledge. How can I pass those configurations to the Prometheus container, Prometheus pod? Based on your requirement, you need to have a different configurations, that Prometheus values, alert rule values. Can I create a config map as a value? Can I create a config map with file content? And can I attach that as a value to that Prometheus deployment, Prometheus container, that Prometheus rules and alert rules config map as a values? Yes, I need to create that one also. Suppose if I am using Docker, can I use bind mount concept? Can I create a prometheus.aml? Can I mount that as a file to the container also? Bind mounts using -v. Can I mount the file also by maintaining that file in the server where your Prometheus container is getting created? Yes. But if it is a normal virtualized deployment, if it is a normal tar file, you download that software. Do I need to manually modify that Prometheus YAMLs and alert rule YAMLs before I start Prometheus software? The way you modified Tomcat server.xml or user.xml in a virtual server, virtualized environment, do I need to do that one if it is a normal virtualized deployment Prometheus? Yes. But here in Kubernetes, I am deploying as with all these things. Prometheus, I'll deploy like this. And can I deploy alert manager also as a deployment? Who is responsible for notifying the alerts, whatever is received from Prometheus, this alert manager? will handle the alerts. It will notify the alerts. Can I deploy this as a deployment? And do I need to create a service for this alert manager so that Prometheus will push the or Prometheus will contact alert manager using that service? Prometheus will invoke some APIs or it will push alerts to the alert manager using that service. Now this alert manager also will have some file. Alert manager also will have some file, that alert manager.yaml. In this file, do I need to define whom to notify, notification details, whether it is an email notification or Slack notification? If it is an email notification, do I need to define my SMTP details from mail ID to mail ID and all those things here, whom to notify? Again, here also, what concept I can use to pass those details, whom to notify, what is the SMTP, from address to address. Can I create a config map and can I use that as a value in the alert manager again? Yes. Then node exporter. What is this node exporter? Already I'm saying this is an exporter, kind of a agent. So if I want to monitor each and every server in my cluster, I have some Kubernetes cluster, I have 100 nodes, 200 nodes, or just 3 nodes, that doesn't matter. I want to monitor each and every node hardware related metrics like CPU utilization, memory utilization, CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, network latencies, bandwidths. If I want to monitor hardware related performance, hardware related metrics, I can use this node exporter. That exporter should be there in each and every node. As a which Kubernetes resource I can create this node exporter, so that in each and every node I have this node exporter, so that Prometheus will pull the metrics from that node exporter agents. As a which Kubernetes resource I can deploy this node exporter. I can deploy it as a daemon set. So if I am creating as a daemon set, does in each and every node do I have a that pod created for the daemon set? If any new node also gets added, whether you are manually adding the node to the cluster, use the cluster autoscaler is creating a node and adding that node to the cluster. Any node gets added to the cluster. In that node also, do we have that node exporter pod up and running once the node is created? Yes. And this Prometheus is going to use this Prometheus is going to use kind of a service discovery, dynamic targets. So this Prometheus, right, can have a dynamic targets also, not only static targets. Prometheus can use dynamic targets. This is a scrap configuration. There is a one more section in your prometheus.yaml file. There is a one more section in your prometheus.yaml file. This is all these things, scrap config. So a scrap config specifies set of targets, the target details, which it has to pull the data, from where it has to pull the data. Targets may be statically configured using static configs. Targets can be statically configured using static config. Static config in the sense you provide the IP address and port where your agents or exporters are running. This static configs. Here in the static config, you can provide list of IP addresses. Static config, you can provide your IP address and port names like this. You can understand in detail here the documentation. Otherwise, I can use kind of a service discovery, dynamic targets are dynamically discovered using one of the supported service discovery mechanisms. So Prometheus will have a service discovery. So that service discovery will identify the targets automatically. If I am deploying this Prometheus in a Kubernetes cluster using this kind of a prometheus.yaml file, I can define the service discovery. So which means whatever targets are getting added, whatever nodes are getting added, is those details will be available in the Prometheus settings file to pull the metrics from those targets, those nodes, new nodes? Yes. So all these things can be defined in the that Prometheus settings file. This node exporter will be running in each and every node. It will pull the metrics. This is only node related data. But if I want to monitor my Kubernetes cluster also, like how many parts are there, how many deployments are there, is there any parts are in pending state, failed state, crash loop backup, any Kubernetes node is in a pending state, or any Kubernetes node is in a failed state, like that I want to monitor my Kubernetes resources also, the Kubernetes cluster resources also. Then what is the other exporter which I can deploy? The other exporter is, one more exporter is there, kube state metrics. We have a one more exporter called kube state metrics. Prometheus has a lot of exporters. Prometheus exporters. Exporters are nothing but agents. So here, Prometheus has lot of exporters. If required, you can monitor your databases using this exporter. You can monitor Couchbase DB, right? MongoDB, MySQL DB, Oracle DB, hardware related exporters. If you see hardware related exporter, they have an exporter called node exporter here. This node or system exporter, you can see hardware related like CPU, memory utilization, disk utilization, whether server is reachable or not, that node exporter. Now, similarly, if you want to monitor some messaging softwares, RabbitMQ, Kafka, you can use these type of exporters. Now, if you want to monitor Nginx also, Apache, Nginx, web servers, you have an exporter. Now you want to monitor some other softwares, you have an exporters, right? Now if you see, there is one exporter called kube state metrics. There is one exporter called kube state metrics. What this kube state metric does, if you understand this official GitHub of that kube state metrics Kubernetes. So kube state metrics is a one exporter that will listen to the Kubernetes API. It will communicate with Kubernetes APIs and it will generate a metrics about the state of Kubernetes resources. State of Kubernetes resources, right? So kube state metrics is generating metrics from Kubernetes APIs. It will not modify anything, but it will ensure that these metrics are made available to the Prometheus. So if Prometheus contacts this metric server, kube state metrics, I'm saying this kube state metrics, if Prometheus contacts this kube state metrics, does Prometheus will scrap the data about your Kubernetes objects and its state, like deployment details, parts details, volumes details, your servers, Kubernetes nodes details also, like that? All the metrics about Kubernetes. So this also I need to deploy. This also I need to deploy kube state metrics. Now, as a which Kubernetes resource I can deploy this kube state metrics? As a which Kubernetes resource I can deploy this kube state metrics in my cluster? If you understand correctly, as a which Kubernetes object I can deploy this kube state metrics pod? Cube state metrics, I am not talking about metric server. Metric server is different, cube state metric is different. Metric server is just going to communicate with your kubelet and gather the CPU and node utilization of your pods and nodes. So as a which Kubernetes resource I can deploy this kube state metrics? Which controller I can use? Amrita is saying HPA. HPA is different. As a which Kubernetes object this I can deploy this kube state metrics image? Can I directly create a pod? Can I go with the replica set? Can I go with the daemon set? Can I go with the deployment? I am asking about that. This cube state matrix is one exporter again. Metric server is different. This cube state matrix is different. As a which Kubernetes resource, I can apply this cube state matrix. Yesterday, while explaining about this one, I explained that one also, if I'm not wrong. We need a cube state matrix also that will communicate with API server. As a stateful set, not required, because it is just exporters. It is gathering the data, but is it storing the data themselves? Is that metrics is getting stored themselves? No. So who is contacting those exporters? As per the architecture, who is contacting those exporters and retrieving and storing the data? Prometheus. Prometheus is gathering the data and storing the data, but these exporters are responsible for preparing the data. Then, as a which Kubernetes resource I can deploy? I can go for a deployment also, or I can go for a replica set, but not required. Daemon set is not required, because do I need to have this cube state matrix in each and every Kubernetes node? Not required. Not required. Just one or two replicas is sufficient. If this cube state matrix has to communicate with Kubernetes APIs, do I need to create a service account, required service account with required cluster role bindings also? Because this cube state matrix need to communicate with Kubernetes APIs. Kubernetes APIs. Do I need to create required service account, cluster role binding, and use that for the deployment of that cube state matrix also? Yes. I need to create this one. Now I may need to deploy all these things. I may need to deploy all these things. I need to deploy all these things in Kubernetes. To deploy all these things in Kubernetes. So can I write a detailed manifest files for all these things? Deployment for Prometheus, service for Prometheus, config map for a Prometheus, and a deployment YML for alert manager, config map for alert manager, service for alert manager, daemon set for node exporter. Can I write a detailed manifest files to deploy all these things using the official images of all these softwares and deploy in my cluster? Like a detailed manifest, YMLs, something like this, something like this, something like this. I can write a detailed manifest files, YML files like this. So deployment for Prometheus server with required volume mounts, config map as a volume, storage as a volume. Using this image, I can create a deployment for Prometheus and service for Prometheus like this, and I can create a config map for Prometheus. This config map, that Prometheus rules in the sense, like a when it has to trigger a notifications, when it has to trigger a notification. This Prometheus.aml, like a scrap interval, how frequently it has to scrap the data, and where is the rules, what path we have a rules. It will trigger the alerts, right? Your alert manager details, like where exactly alert manager is running, your alert manager service name, all these things. Scrap configs. It is like a Kubernetes SD configs. What do you mean by Kubernetes SD configs here? This is one section. Is it like a service discovery, or like kind of a dynamic targets? Here it is going to apply some logic. It will discover all these things. Sir, it looks a bit lengthy. Sir, this file looks a bit lengthy. Do I need to type each file, each of this line, line by line? Do I need to type all these things? This is I gathered from the official website. In the official website, if you go, will you able to understand what is what based on the requirement? Prometheus, YAML, file. So I went to this official website step by step. You need to understand this one based on the requirement. I have defined all those things. You can get a samples also. You can get a samples also. Samples also. They're going to give official website only. This github.com Prometheus official website only. They have given these samples. If you see, did I use same thing as is? Based on that requirement, I modified here and there. Same thing. Right? Official websites itself will give the detailed examples, explanations also. Now we have created like this, but I don't want to create all these things manually, like required cluster roles, role bindings, deploying that node exporter, and deploying that alert manager. I don't want to create a detailed manifest file. If everything is already available as a Helm chart, can I deploy all these things using Helm chart instead of you write these detailed manifest files like deployment YAML, config map YAML, service YAML, cluster role binding, all these things instead of you write and apply to deploy? Can I go for a Helm chart if already Helm chart is available to deploy these softwares in Kubernetes? Yes. So we already have a Helm chart available. If I go to this artifact.hub.io here, if I search Prometheus, do I see one Helm chart called Prometheus repository, Prometheus community, organization Prometheus? Is it a kind of official image? Yes. And you can see one more also, this Prometheus stack. Is this Prometheus stack Helm chart also from organization called Prometheus? And again, repo called Prometheus community. In same repo, do I have a Prometheus stack as well as Prometheus? Both are official only. But how is different between these two? If I go for a Prometheus stack, we are going to get some default Grafana dashboards also. Grafana also get installed, and some Grafana dashboards also configured automatically. If I go for this cube Prometheus stack, if I go for this cube Prometheus stack, basically it's a Helm charts. It's a collection of Kubernetes manifests, comma Grafana dashboards also. Grafana also gets installed. Grafana also gets installed, and some dashboards also pre-configured automatically. If I go for this Prometheus stack, but instead of Prometheus stack, if I just go for a Prometheus, if I just go for this Prometheus, only Prometheus alert manager, Prometheus alert manager node exporter, Prometheus alert manager node exporter, and cube state metrics. These four: Prometheus, alert manager, cube state metrics, and node exporter. These four gets configured. Grafana will not be installed if I use this Helm chart. Grafana will not be installed, and Grafana dashboards also will not come. You need to install Grafana manually using another Helm chart, and you need to create a dashboards or import a dashboards on your own. If I go for this Prometheus Helm chart, is everyone clear? What is this Prometheus Helm chart and what is that cube Prometheus stack? Difference between this Prometheus Helm chart and that cube Prometheus stack Helm chart. You can see here itself the details. Now, if I use that cube Prometheus, if I use that cube Prometheus stack, it will install Grafana with some default dashboards also, with some basic like a common dashboards. But if I want to customize these things, can I use that values concept here? Can I add the repository? Can I get the values and tweak the values as per my requirement and then use that custom values while installing these charts if required? Yes, you can do that. For now, let me use this Prometheus only, this Prometheus Helm chart only. Now, can I add this repository where I have a Prometheus chart? Can I add this repository to the client wherever I have a Helm installed? Like this, installation. So, as I already told, what is the prerequisite for your Kubernetes? If you want to use this Prometheus and Grafana in Kubernetes, do I need to have a Kubernetes cluster with the storage class configured? Do I need to have a Kubernetes cluster with storage class configured? Dynamic values? Because when I am deploying that Helm chart, does that Helm chart will create a persistent volume claims also for Prometheus, Alert Manager, and all those things? PVC also? Yes. If there is no storage class configured, do we get a persistent values for these PVCs? No. If there is no values available, even though you are creating a Prometheus pod, alert manager pod, do you think is your Prometheus pods coming to running state? No. So that's why, do I need to have a Kubernetes cluster with storage class configured as a prerequisite if I want to deploy that Prometheus? Yes. Now I am using EKS cluster. I am using EKS cluster. In the EKS cluster, do we have already one storage class configured and that is marked as a default storage class also? Yes, that is marked as a default storage class also. We can use that. But again, whether I am using AKS cluster, whether I am using GKE cluster or EKS cluster, or whether I am using self-managed cluster, that doesn't matter. Can I use Kubernetes? I mean to say, can I deploy this Prometheus, Grafana, this alert manager, all these things in the any cluster, whether it's a self-managed, whether it's a managed, again, EKS, GKE, AKS, does anything matters here? No. We can deploy anywhere, but you need to have some kind of a storage class. If class is not configured, then can I make the persistence enabled as a false in the Helm chart values? If storage class is not there, dynamic values are not there, I can make persistence enabled as a false in the Helm values. If I make persistence enabled as a false in the Helm values, is that value is used in the templates of Prometheus? Yes. If it is enabled as a false, does persistent volume claims gets created? Does volumes will be used for your Prometheus alert manager? If I make as false, if I enabled as a false, persistent enabled as a false, if I do, that is in kind of some conditions. They have written the templates in some kind of a conditions. If persistence enabled is false, then is it going to create a PVC, and is it going to use a volumes concept in the deployments or whatever it is? No. Then is it suggestible? Is it suggestible? Is it suggestible to make persistence enabled as a false and apply? No. Which is not at all suggestible, as if parts are terminated and recreated, we will lose the data. So make sure you have volumes configured, that storage class configured, then you deploy. This is not suggestible. That's why I have highlighted also. Then do I need to have a Kubernetes nodes with any, minimum capacity I'm giving here? Do I need to have enough capacity in my cluster? Because lot of pods gets created, Prometheus pods gets created, alert manager pods gets created, cube state metrics pods get created, node exporter pods gets created. Do I need to have enough capacity in the cluster to deploy this Prometheus, alert manager, node exporter, all these things? Yes. Here I'm saying minimum this much, but in real time actual clusters, do you have a high capacity servers as a nodes in your Kubernetes cluster? Yes. But this is at least minimum. Now, do I need to have a one server which has a kubectl and Helm configured? That can be your Jenkins server also. By writing a pipeline also, via pipeline also, can I install these applications via Helm from pipelines also if required? Yes. I need one server which has a kubectl and Helm configured, which have a kubectl and Helm configured. This is the prerequisite. As of now, do I have all these prerequisites met here in this cluster? I have one EKS cluster, I have one EKS cluster, and I have one server where I have a Helm and a kubectl configured. I have one server where Helm and kubectl configured. All the prerequisites are met. Now here I have a Helm configured, I have a Kubernetes, kubectl configured, I have a Helm also configured in this server. Now let me do the setup. First, let me add the repository. Add Helm repo which contains Prometheus and Grafana, whatever charts. Now I am going to do like this. I am installing this Prometheus chart. Can I add something like this? Helm repo add, because we don't have any that repository as of now. As of now, I added these repositories. In these repositories, do I have any Helm chart which is for Prometheus? No. Now let me add that. Let me add that repository like this. Helm repo add. Same thing I have given in the document also. Helm repo add. This repo, this is a name of the repository. Can I give anything ABC also here? If I want to give, yes. Now I added a repository. Now if I want to update also, like we have this command Helm update repo. Helm update repo. Something is there. Or sorry, Helm repo update. Helm repo update. There is a command called Helm repo update, which means if any new charts are available in this repository, is it going to sync? Is that client will get synced with that repository? Yes. So this is like a update repository. Now once that is done, can I install the chart, that Prometheus chart available in this repository? So we can use this Helm install command. And if you see dependencies, by default this chart will also install what? This also additionally install what? As I already told, it is going to install kube state matrix also, along with alert manager, node exporter, this kube state matrix also. If you don't want to install the dependencies, that kube state matrix, there is one value called kube state matrix dot enabled. If I make that to false, is the kube state matrix get installed? No. But I need cube state matrix also. I need cube state matrix also. I'm not going to do anything. Now let me search what charts are available in that repository. Now what command I can use? Helm search repo. If I want to search the charts available in this repository, I can give a repo name. So do I have a lot of charts available in that repository? One is this Prometheus. One is this Prometheus. Lot of charts. Now is this Helm chart contains other dependencies also, like is it going to install alert manager as well as kube state matrix as well as node exporter also? I no need to manually install other Helm charts. If I use this Prometheus itself, it will install alert manager, node exporter and kube state matrix. Now if I want to know what is the default values of this Helm chart, what command I can use? I don't want to install first. I want to see what are the default values, what is the default templates. I want to know what commands I can use, guys. Now can I use Helm template, some name, Prometheus, this chart, this chart. Now if I execute this Helm template, that complete chart name. Now can you able to see what and all things are getting rendered? If I deploy that one, is all these objects gets deployed with the default values. I have not modified any values. If you see, it is kind of a bit lengthy file. I'm not able to show in a single shot. If you see, is the persistent volume claims are getting created for alert manager? Is the persistent volume claim is created for Prometheus? Is the role bindings are getting created? And also cluster role bindings, and service for kube state metrics, service for alert manager, service for Prometheus, service for node exporter, and also service for this Prometheus, service for this Prometheus itself, Prometheus server. Do you see daemon set is going to be created for this node exporter out of this image? Out of this image, do you see the daemon set for node exporter is getting created? And deployment for kube state metrics, deployment for alert manager, deployment for some other component called push gateway, deployment for Prometheus. Do you see, using this image is Prometheus parts are getting created. But if you see, there are two containers. One is using this image, another one is using another image called config map reload. Whenever there are any changes in the config maps which is used by this Prometheus, this image automatically identify and it will reload those configurations. Do you see all these things are getting created if I use this? Now what is the default values if I want to see? What is the default values if I want to see? The values which is used by these templates. The values which is used by these templates, I want to know what is the default values. What command I can use? Search is for searching the charts. I am saying I want to know the values of this Helm chart. The values file, the values of this Helm chart. Yesterday we discussed, can I use Helm show values? Helm show values, that chart. If you see, again it's very lengthy file. Because lot of things are there. So alert manager related configurations. This server files are nothing but Prometheus related configurations. Now if you see, do have all these things, that prometheus.yaml content, is this values are used in the config map of that template? The config map of there will be a config map in the templates folder for that Prometheus. This is not a that file, prometheus.yaml file. Using this values file, is the config map is getting created with that Prometheus for that prometheus.yaml? Yes. So if you see, this is like a, do have any alert rules as of now? For Prometheus to trigger the alerts? Do have any alert rules as of now? No, because this is based on your requirement. Do you need to create alert rules based on your requirement when to trigger alert? Whether it has to trigger alert when CPU utilization is so and so percent, memory utilization is so and so percent, when parts are in a pending state, crash loop backup. Is it our requirement, when to create alerts. By default, is any alert rules are getting created by this Helm chart, official Helm chart? No. So based on the requirement, can I modify these alert rules, this values file? I can get this values file. I can get this values file. Can I modify whatever need to add alerts? If I want to modify this one also, the Prometheus settings. This Prometheus settings, if you see, the scrap interval is there. What do you mean by this scrap interval? In the prometheus.aml file, you have something called scrap interval. What do you mean by scrap interval? Like how frequently it has to scrap the data. Like by default, it is 10 seconds. If I want to modify, can I modify all these things also? Yes. And if you see this alert manager related, settings also, it is empty. This alert manager related also empty, that config map. This alert manager.aml, that content is also empty, because as per your requirement, you need to define whom to notify, whether Slack notification, email notification. Based on your requirement, do you need to define those SMTP details, from address to address, all these things here? Yes. So this is like a default values. If required, you can modify values. Where all these values are used, it's very lengthy file where all these values are used, and most of the things are commented also, just a documentation. So where all these values are used, is these values are used in the template of that Prometheus chart, because I'm showing the values of that chart only. Yes. Now I'll not modify anything, but here what I have done, when I have given in the document, since it's very lengthy file, instead of modifying that lengthy file, I have given only few content. I am giving one file here with very less content. You can modify only that content, but in real time it is not going to like that, guys. You should not use this way of doing. So you need to do as per your requirement. You need to update that values, rules as per your requirement. But to make the thing simple, since it's very lengthy file, to simplify the process for you to understand the concept, what I have done, in our GitHub, we maintained one file. Here, I am giving only few sections. I am having only few sections in that values file. If you see here, alert manager, files alert manager, in the default, do you have something like this empty? In the default values, do you have something like this empty? Just now I shown, do you have something like this in the default values, alert manager, YAML? Yes. So for our students purpose to understand things simple, so I am giving that with some configurations like this. Now here, instead of empty, I am giving some details like receivers. What type of notifications I'm sending using alert manager? Alert manager will use this config map as a value. Alert manager will send the notification. What type of notifications I'm configuring? The receivers, who is going to receive? Email configurations. So sir, how do you know all these things? Official website only. If I go to alert manager settings, right? Alert manager configuration. If I go to that alert manager configuration, now will I able to see what and all sections I can define in that alert manager configuration with some samples also, right? This configuration file, like do I have something like receivers, from ID to ID, like this also here in this alert manager? Yes. You can see some samples also. You can see some samples also. Alert manager, this alert manager configurations, if I go, right, you can see some examples also. Do I have this email config? Do I have this email config section which I am using here? This email configs where to mail ID, from mail ID, like email configs. Under email config, I have a to, from, SMTP host, username, password. Am I using those things here? Something like that? Yes. So this is the values file. But is that Helm chart is going to use these values to create a config map? That config map will be mounted as a value to your alert manager. So is alert manager is set to, is alert manager is good to send the notifications using these details whenever any alert come to alert manager? Yes. So all these things are alert manager related. But if you see here in the default, it is kind of a empty. It is kind of a empty. But instead of taking this very big file and modifying, I am modifying only whatever sections I want to modify. If you see, is it empty in the default values? Yes. So instead of taking this very lengthy file and modifying, am I only modifying this piece of section like this? I created one for your reference. I'm maintaining in GitHub. I'm only taking that. I'm modifying that section. And also the server files. Server files are nothing but your Prometheus related server files. The Prometheus related. As of now, do you have any alert rules? As of now, do you have any alert rules in the default values? No. Based on your requirement, can I create some alerts like this? Alert rules, am I creating some alerts like this? Whenever node is down, send an alert. Whenever your server is having 85% of memory utilization, greater than 85% of memory utilization, send the alert. Any volumes are in a pending state, any parts are in a pending state. Based on my requirement, am I creating some kind of a rules here, alert rules in Prometheus? Whenever these conditions are satisfied, is Prometheus is going to fire an alert to the alert manager? Yes. Once alert manager receives this alert, once alert manager receive the alert, as per the notifications I configured, as per the receivers I configured, is that alert manager is going to notify. If it is a email configuration, it is going to send email notifications. If it is like a Slack, is it going to send a notification in the Slack? Yes. So I modified based on the requirement. So for now, I am going to deploy with the default values. For now, I am going to deploy with the default values. I will do this later. I'll do this later. I'll not do this while installing itself. So I'll do this later. First, let me create one namespace. Let me create one namespace. Monitoring namespace. I am creating one namespace called monitoring to deploy my applications in that one. This monitoring related kubectl create ns monitoring, something like this I am creating. As of now, do I have anything in the monitoring namespace? As of now, do I have anything in monitoring namespace? No. I added a repository like this. I am not configuring, I am not modifying these values for now. I'll directly install with the default values. Guys, if you don't have a ingress deployed, you can use service of type load balancer. You can use service of type load balancer. If you don't have an ingress configured, you can use a service of type load balancer. You can modify the service type of alert manager, the service type of Prometheus to the load balancer or node port if you don't have ingress configured. But if you already have ingress configured, even though service is getting created as a cluster IP, by creating a ingress rules for this Prometheus and alert manager, will I able to reach, will I able to access that Prometheus and alert manager from outside also, from external? Yes. So I'm not customizing anything. I'm just using Helm install. I'm just using Helm install, that chart name and the namespace. I'm not customizing anything. I'm installing something like this. Helm install Prometheus, that is release name. This is chart name. Within that chart, this is the repo name in monitoring namespace. I'm just installing like this. I will modify all these things later. Now, if you observe Helm ls in monitoring, Helm ls in monitoring, do I have one release created in that monitoring namespace? And if I do kubectl get all in that monitoring namespace, now do I have these things? Deployment for Prometheus, alert manager, kube state metrics, daemon set for node exporter. Do I have a daemon set for node exporter? Do I have a deployment for alert manager, kube state metrics, Prometheus server? Do I have a services created for that? Do I have a pods coming up? And also, do I have some config maps also? Do I have some config maps also? This Prometheus server config map, alert manager config map. Is this config maps are used as a values in these pods? If I describe, you can see that also. kubectl describe pod, that pod name, monitoring namespace. Now if you see, do you see the values? One is config map value. There is a config map called Prometheus server, that is config map value. Is this value is mounted to this directory, etc/config directory, where we have that Prometheus YAML, alert rules YAML, all those YAMLs. Is this config map value is mounted to this directory for this container? And this data directory, the data directory contains all the metrics, whatever metrics this Prometheus is getting gathered, that is stored in the data directory. Is the data directory is mounted with persistent value? This one, a persistent value. The claim name is this. So if you see, do I have a PVCs also created? PVs also created now. Do I have a PVC for alert manager? Do I have a PVC for Prometheus server? And since there is a storage class, what type of values got provisioned for that persistent value claims? Since there is a storage class, what type of values got provisioned? Dynamic value. What provisioner is used here? What provisioner is used here? What is the storage class in this cluster? With what provisioner it is configured? This is EKS cluster. This is EKS cluster. What is the provisioner? What type of values? EVS. Now, if I go to the cloud, and if I see, can I see some EBS values? Is those EBS values are attached to the servers and those containers? Now, these dynamic values, is it used by that Prometheus pods, whatever here? Yes. Now everything is deployed. Everything is deployed. Only Prometheus related stuff got deployed. Prometheus related. Now, what type of services got created for your Prometheus and alert manager? What type of services? If you see, all are cluster IP. Will I able to access Prometheus UI or Alert Manager UI from outside now? From outside now? No. But by creating a ingress rules, will I able to access? So that values may have a ingress related settings also. That values may have a ingress related setting also. Like let me show that the default values. Let me append, maybe let me show here itself. Helm show values, grep. I'll say something called ingress. Let me grep something called ingress. Now that default values do have a ingress fields also, something like this. If required, can I customize those values and enable ingress and define my rules also? I'll get that complete values and I can do the customization to enable ingress also. Otherwise, I'll do something like this. I'll create a ingress rules. If I have any ingress rules, I'll copy as is. I'll copy as is. Any ingress rule YML is there here. Okay, let me create. I'm creating myself Prometheus ingress.yaml. Here, can I define the rules? Can I define that rules? You already know what is ingress. Do I already have ingress controller in place? Do I need to deploy ingress controller, guys? Do I need to deploy ingress controller? No. Ingress controller is already there. Now, can I define those rules only? That ingress rules? Something like this. I'm just taking this as an example. Now, if someone is accessing like this, Prometheus .mithuntechdevops.co.in. Can I define the traffic? Can I define the service name of that, whatever service name, and make sure you are creating in a same namespace. In which namespace I need to create this one? In which namespace I need to create this one? In whatever namespace I have a that Prometheus monitoring namespace. Now the service name. Let me know the service name. Let me get the service name. So what is the service name of Prometheus? This one, Prometheus-server. Prometheus-server. On which port service is created for that? Service port 80. So here, give me a second. So something like this. Prometheus server. The service name is this and the port number is this. Similarly, can I create a one more rule for alert manager? If someone access like alert manager.mithuntechdevops.co.in, can I route the traffic? But make sure your indentation is proper. Yeah. If someone access alert manager alert manager.mithuntechdevops.co.in, can I route the traffic to that service? This one, sorry, I need to give the wrong location I have given here. I need to give here in the wrong location I have given Prometheus hyphen server. That is where you need to give the name. Here, the name of this service is Prometheus alert alert manager. If you see, this is the name, the alert manager service, Prometheus hyphen alert manager. No, sorry, here Prometheus hyphen alert manager. The port is 80. So the port is 80. So I have given the rules like this, and I am creating in a same namespace, in a monitoring namespace, these ingress rules. So using that values file also you can do this. Using that values file also you can do this. For now I am doing this directly. kubectl apply. Guys, if I modified the values where I have defined all these rules while installing Helm chart itself, is that ingress also gets created. Instead of you are creating a YML like this and applying that YML in the Helm chart values itself, if you define all these files and if you enable ingress, is that ingress gets created along with your deployment services also? Yes. Now I am creating outside of Helm. Now ingress rules are created. Ingress rules are created in that monitoring namespace. Ingress rules are created in the monitoring namespace. But for now, if I try to access like this, is that a domain will be resolved to any IP? Is this domain is resolved to any IP as of now, that prometheus.mithuntechdevops.co.in or that alertmanager.mithuntechdevops.co.in, is it able to resolve to any IP? No. Why? What is missing? It is nothing to do with Kubernetes. What is missing? The DNS mapping. The DNS mapping. Did I map these domains with any load balancers or IPs in the DNS? No. If you don't have a domains, and if you want to practice and understand this concept, where can you map these domains with the IP address of that ingress controller, ingress load balancer? In the host file, in your local laptop host file. But I have domain. I already created a hosted zone. Again, it's a public hosted zone. So if I map this one from internet, does anyone can access these things? This Prometheus alert manager also from the internet, if they know the domain, yes. But these are like a internal applications. Is this Prometheus and alert manager and Grafana will be exposed to the internet, guys, in your actual projects, actual applications? Is this Prometheus, is this Grafana will be exposed to the internet? No. In that case, are you going to use kind of a private hosted zone? These domains will be resolved to the IPs only within the network, in the same network, your office network? Yes. For now, I am using public hosted zone only. In the public hosted zone, I already created some records, right? Here I'll create a sub record. Now I'll say prometheus.mithuntechdevops.co.in. It will resolve to the load balancer, which is there in a Mumbai region. This load balancer is created for which application in Kubernetes? This load balancer, only one load balancer is there. That is created for which application in Kubernetes? Is it created for that ingress controller, Nginx ingress controller? Yes. Now request goes to the ingress controller based on the rules we defined. In the ingress, does the traffic will be routed? Is the request will be routed to the respective Kubernetes services? Let me create alert manager also. For alert manager also, I'm defining I'm doing like this. Now, in the internet, is this domain resolved to that IP? Now, am I able to see that Prometheus UI? The Prometheus is running as a pod in my Kubernetes cluster. And am I able to see Alert Manager UI? Am I able to see Alert Manager UI? Yes. Now, we already have exporters. Now, if you see here, Prometheus has some kind of a query language. Prometheus has some kind of a query language. We call it as a PSQL, PromQL or PSQL, Prometheus query language. Prometheus query language. So in Prometheus, you can query the metrics. You can query the metrics in Prometheus, right? This is the official website of Prometheus. So you have a concept of PromQL, Prometheus query language, PromQL, Prometheus query language. So is Prometheus is gathering the data already? Is Prometheus is monitoring and gathering the data and maintaining the data in some kind of a time series database? Now it is gathering different metrics. Can I use some kind of a queries to see the values of those metrics using this PromQL, Prometheus query language? There is a concept called PromQL, Prometheus query language. Now let me go to this Prometheus UI and let me show that. Now here I am typing something like this node. I am typing something like this node underscore memory underscore. What are all these things? Whatever it is pre-populating and showing here, what are all these things? Can I call this as a metric? This is one metric, this is another metric, this is another metric, this is another metric, like that. Now if you see, Prometheus is having all these metrics. With the help of whom Prometheus is gathering all these metrics, whatever starting with this node, all these are node metrics. With the help of whom it is gathering all these metrics, node memory related, disk related, CPU related, all these things is gathered with the help of whom by Prometheus. You see node memory, node CPU, node disk, like that. There are a lot of metrics. CPU, node CPU, node memory, like this. Metric server doesn't come here. Prometheus will not use metric server. Prometheus will not at all use metric server. With the help of whom it is gathering all the node related, hardware related data, the node related, hardware related data. This is like hardware related data, node related, node disk, node memory, node CPU, node file system. With the help of whom Prometheus is gathering all this data. To have exporters installed in the nodes called node exporter. To have an exporter called node exporter. Is all these things are gathered with the help of that node exporter, that node related information, CPU information, memory information, all these things. Now if you see node underscore memory underscore, I'm typing something like this node underscore memory underscore, total bytes is there, active bytes is there, free bytes is there, like that. Node memory total bytes, available bytes, total bytes, available bytes. If I'm saying something like this, node memory total bytes, this is one metric. I'm just executing on this, clicking on execute. How many matching records I got with that metric? How many matching records I got with that metric as of now? 3, which means do I have a 3 records? And here it is giving some additional details also, the instance details also, which means how many instances, how many nodes I have in each node, how much memory total memory, how much memory I have in each server, total memory. It is showing in a kilobytes. It is showing in a kilobytes. If I convert this into megabytes or gigabytes. If I convert this into gigabytes, how much you have in each server? What is the total memory? 8 GB. Because what type of instance I have created? What type of instance I have created? If you remember, did I created T3.xlarge or T3.large? So 8 GB RAM and 2 core processor. So is it monitoring that node, whatever nodes I have in the cluster, that node exporter is gathering the data. Now, similarly, can I use some kind of a formulas also? Node memory total bytes and also node memory available bytes is there. Node memory available bytes also there. Node memory free bytes available bytes like that. Node memory available bytes also there here. Free bytes available bytes like that. Can I use some kind of a formulas how much is available or free like that, total percentages also, something like this? I can use some kind of a formulas. This we call it as what here, whatever we are using here, we call this as a PromQL, Prometheus query language. Prometheus query language. Query language. So you can find some examples also. A lot of websites will give that sample queries also. Prometheus query language, PromQL. From the official website, you can give some samples also. Like you can use this kind of a functions, like some group by, some minus, plus, all these things. You can use some samples also. Like this is Prometheus query language. Now you can use something like this. Some also something like this. Let me do that here. Prometheus. Kind of a disk size. Kind of a disk size like that. If you have this one, but metric, if you do, if you have a metric with a different name, file system, something like this. Your disk size, something like this. You are going to, you can give some kind of a formulas also you can use here. Now you can see how much CPU, how much memory is available, how much CPU is available using these formulas, kind of a Prometheus query language. And using this metrics, whatever metrics is gathered by this Prometheus, can I create alerts also here? Now we have a metrics about Kubernetes also. Whatever you see cube, daemon set informations, deployment informations, horizontal pod autoscaler informations, right? So all these things are gathered with the help of whom? Let me show you horizontal pod autoscaler info. Let me click on execute here. Now, as of now, how many horizontal pod autoscalers are there in my cluster? If you see how many records are matching, how many records are matching? Only one. If you see in my complete cluster, do I have only one HPA? Do you have only one HPA? I am saying -A in all namespaces. If you see, can I see those details also here? There is one HPA that is created for this deployment. You can see that is created for this deployment, right? In which namespace that HPA is there, you can see. So is all these details are gathered with the help of cube state metrics? With the help of cube state metrics, is this Prometheus is gathering the Kubernetes state also? Horizontal pod autoscaler information, your deployment information, config map informations. Now, if you see, there are a lot of config maps. There are a lot of config maps. Some config maps are there in a monitoring namespace. Some config maps are in a Nginx namespace, some config maps are in a default namespace. Am I able to see all these config map details also? Now pods, pod, pod info, pod info. So can I see pod informations also? How many pods are there? In which namespace? What is the pod name? When it is created? The state of the pod also. If the pods are in a pending state, can I use some kind of a queries here, filter whatever pods which are in a pending state also if required? Based on that, can I trigger an alert also? Based on that, can I create an alert also? If any pods are in a pending state, fire alert. If any nodes are not ready state, fire alert. If any node is having 80% of memory utilization, fire alert. Can I create alerts also based on these metrics, whatever is gathered by Prometheus? So this one represents record, which means this is created. But if wherever you see 0, which means that is kind of a not ready. Now whenever you see here, let me show some example of the queries. Now here I am using one condition. Let me use this one. I am using Kubernetes nodes. That is one metric. That is one metric. Kubernetes node is one metric, right? Now here I am going to use something like this, conditions, something like this, some kind of a condition. Up job, that job is Kubernetes nodes. Now I am getting some records. So if double equals to 0 means that node is not ready. That node is not ready. But I am getting am I getting one value called 1 up? My Kubernetes node is up and running. So if it is up and running, value will be shown as 1. But if it is 0, which means that node is not up and running. Now, if I have any nodes which are in not ready state, will I able to see that if I use this query, this metric here? Yes. Now, can I use this query to create an alert? As of now, do I have any alerts here? Do I have any alert rules created first of all? As of now, do I have any alert rules created first of all? No, there is no alert rules created. But can I use these conditions, whatever I am demonstrating here, can I use these conditions in the alert rules? Whenever this condition is satisfied, does Prometheus will fire alert to the alert manager? Yes. So this is kind of one alert. And also if you see here, node memory available bytes, I am doing some kind of a node memory available bytes. How much memory is available? As of now, how much memory is available? You can see some node has almost 6.7 GB of memory available. One node has 6.5 GB of memory available. Then some kind of a formula divided by node memory total, node memory total, some kind of a formula. Now kind of a percentages I want to calculate, some kind of a percentages I want to calculate, something like this. Into 100, I am doing into the percentage to see how much percent of memory is available, something like that. Now when I am doing like this, now how much percent of memory is still available? Percentages I am calculating. Available bytes divided by total bytes into 100. Am I going to get in the percentages? Available memory divided by total memory into 100. Am I going to get in a percentages? Now how much percent of memory is available in this node? 82. How much percent of memory is available in this node? 79. Now can I use some kind of a, again formula here? If any server having less than 15% of memory available, any server which has less than 15% memory available, Can I use this formula? Can I use this query to fire alert? Now, which means any server having less than 15% memory available, can I fire alert? Or 10%, 15% also like that? But as of now, do I have any server which has less than 10% memory available, 15% memory available like this as of now? No. Let me remove this. Now, do I have enough memory in each node? Now, this is kind of a Prometheus query language. This is kind of a Prometheus query language. Now, let's say I want to know any values are in a failed state or pending state. Any values are in a failed state or pending state. There is a metric called cube state. This cube persistent value status phase. Now I have lot of values, but here phase. Can I consider? Can I see? Can I filter this one also based on the phase, whether it is in pending state or failed state? Something like this. Something like this, some kind of a queries formulas here. Now, if it is any one is a failed state or pending state, then I can fire alert. But here I can see some matching records. Here I can see some matching records. Sorry, I don't have any matching records. If it is greater than 0, then it is kind of a failed and pending. But again, if it is failed or pending for more than 2 minutes, if it is in a same state for 2 minutes, kind of a for 2 minutes, this is the expression. When this is satisfied for more than 2 minutes, is this alert gets triggered if I create alert like this? Yes. Now, any pods are in a crash loop backup or pending state crash loop backup. Any pod which is not ready, let's say this is crash loop backup. Any pods are in a crash loop backup for continuously 5 minutes. 5 times it is restarted, more than 5 times it is restarted. It is in a crash loop backup. Any pods are in a crash loop backup. Within 5 minutes, it is restarted more than 5 times. Kind of a crash loop backup also. Can I create alert? Can I fire alert if any pods are in a crash loop backup? Your pods are continuously getting restarted. As of now, do I have any pods which are in a crash loop backup? No. And also any pods are which are in a pending state also. Can I fire alert? Something like this. Any pods which are in a pending state, unknown state in any namespace, like this. Yes. Now let me intentionally make one pod in a pending state. Let me intentionally make one pod in a pending state and let me show you how it can detect. Now let me see any application. Now here I am requesting, let's say 2-core CPU. Does your pod can go to the running state? Because my node pool, that node group, whatever node group I have created, what type of server I have created, guys, what type of instance type I have selected, whatever node group I used for this Kubernetes cluster, what type of instance I have created, T3.large. So T3.large, what is the CPU and memory? What is the CPU and memory? 2-core CPU and 8 GB RAM. I am requesting itself 2-core. I am requesting 2-core itself. Do you think does this parts will be in a scheduled state or running state based on my current system capacity? Even though you have a cluster autoscaler, are you going to get another node? Even though you get the other node, does this part gets scheduled to that node because of the capacity of that node? No. So let me make this intentionally. Let me apply this application, whether you are deploying via manually or this application is getting deployed via pipeline, that doesn't matter here. Whether you are manually deploying, whether you have continuous integration, continuous delivery or deployment in place. Now I have a continuous monitoring also. Now do I have the pods in a pending state? Now here, can I see some records now? After some time, it will detect based on the scrap interval. Based on the scrap interval, it will detect. Based on the scrap interval, it will detect. Now let's wait for some time. That Prometheus is going to scrap the data from the metrics, right? It is going to scrap the data from that exporters. Now, even after some time, these are in a same state, pending state. Now this will detect. If they are in a pending state or failed state like that, it will detect. Now you see, is it able to identify this pod in this namespace, this pod in this namespace? Is it able to identify that they are in a pending state or unknown state? Now, if I use this as a alert, does alert will be fired and alert manager will send a notifications to the team, maybe development team, support team, or DevOps team, whomever we have configured. Does the team can take an action? Why these are in a pending state? Why they are in a crash loop backup? If any nodes are running out of CPU memory, can they take some action? The continuous monitoring. The continuous monitoring. But is these alerts are based on the requirement on the application? Does Prometheus will have lot of alerts created by default themselves? No. These alerts are based on your requirement. It is gathering all the data based on the metrics. Do you need to create alerts based on the disk size? Based on the disk size, if you are running out of disk, something like that, lot of things you can do that. Now by default, we don't have any alert rules created. Now let me create some alerts. Now I will use this file. I will use this file, whatever file I have mentioned here in the documentation. I'm getting that file like this. I'm getting that file like this. I'll modify all these things. I'll modify these values here. I'll modify something like this. Guys, for now, I am demonstrating with some alerts. Now here, alert manager. As of now, is this alert manager has any notification details? This is my alert manager. If I go to this alert manager status, sorry, if I go to this alert manager status, do I have any details here? Whom to send? Any configurations? Whom to send here as of now? Nothing is there. So I'll configure all those things. I'll configure all those things. For now, I'm using Gmail here as a SMTP details, but in the actual project, are you going to use Gmail? In the actual projects, when you are configuring, are you going to use Gmail, your personal mail IDs and Gmail SMTPs? No. Are you going to use your official office SMTP details and official mail IDs? Yes. So for now, I am using two mail ID like this. From this mail ID, I want to send notifications to which mail ID may be here. But in the real time, are you going to give a DL instead of giving a individual mail IDs? Are you going to give a DL? What do you mean by DL here? Distribution list. Distribution list. I can create one distribution list. For the distribution list, can I add lot of people's like support team, DevOps team, or development team members also to the DL? Yes. I can give the DL, and whoever is part of the DL, does everyone will get the notifications? Whoever is part of the DL, does everyone will get the notifications? Yes. For now, here I am giving this mail ID. To mail ID is this, from mail ID, sorry, I'm going to say this is from mail ID. I'm going to say this is from mail ID. I'll say this one as a to mail ID, something like this. To mail ID is this, from mail ID is this, and here username also same, whatever from mail ID. This identity also same, whatever from mail ID you have given, whatever from mail ID you have given. The username also same, the identity also same. Here password, I will update my password after some time. I don't want to reveal the Gmail password of this one. I'll update after some time the password of that Gmail here. Then this, all these alert rules, is this alert rules will be used in the Prometheus. Does this will be mounted as a config map? Config map will be created with this content, that alert rules, that Prometheus config map will be created with all these things, alert rules. Then these rules will be reflected in the Prometheus. Now let me take this content. Let me take this content. I am creating one file. I am creating one file like this. You may have a question, sir, why you are not modifying by getting the complete default values file? Because that if I take the complete default values, it is bit lengthy, very lengthy file. You will not, you may get confused because you are completely new to all these concepts. You may completely new to all these concepts, so you may get confused. So that's why I'm getting only few sections. I am modifying with only few sections. Now here I will modify my password. Here I will update my password. For that, let me stop the screen share for some time. I'll do that. So let me share my screen again. So I have updated my password also in that values file. Now I have that values file here. Now can I upgrade, since I have already installed that Prometheus? Now can I use Helm upgrade because I have already installed Prometheus release? Now can I use Helm upgrade to upgrade with that values file? Helm upgrade, Helm upgrade. That name of the release, that Prometheus. The chart name, what is the chart name? That Prometheus hyphen community, Prometheus hyphen community slash Prometheus. Then can I use this hyphen f, that values, whatever customized values, only few values, but is the rest of the values will be used in the whatever values we have in this default chart? In this chart we have lot of, one more values file. So I am overriding few values, but other values will be used by the values file within this chart. The other values, whatever I am not touching, not modifying. Yes. Now namespace, namespace, monitoring namespace. Now I am upgrading. Now I am upgrading. But before upgrading also, before upgrading, I'll upgrade in some time. But before upgrading, let me show the config map content, your pod content, all those things. Config map content, pod content, all those things. I'll upgrade in some time. Now I have some config maps. I have some config maps in monitoring namespace. Now when I see this config map, kubectl gets config map, this Prometheus server config map -o YAML format -n monitoring. Now if you see, as of now, do I have any rules? I kind of alert rules. Now this is prometheus.aml content. This is prometheus.aml content. But do I have any alert rules as of now in that config map? No. Is this is used in your Prometheus pod? Is this config map is used in your Prometheus pod as a value? Whatever config map I am showing. Now if you see kubectl kubectl exec, sorry, kubectl get pods in monitoring namespace. I will show kubectl exec. This is my Prometheus pod. I will do the cat on that etc config folder. I'll do ls first. I'll do ls first on that one, so that whatever files you have, that you can understand in monitoring namespace. So do I have that files like alert rules.aml, prometheus.aml here in this pod, in this folder, in the Prometheus container? There are two containers in that. You can use -c also. You can use -c also, in which container you want to execute that command. Now you can see that something like this. I'm executing ls command on that name, there. Let me show that. Now we have alert rules. Now if I do the cat on the alert rules, do I have anything as of now? Is it kind of a empty? Let me do the cat on that. Is it kind of a empty? Do I have any alert rules there? Because that config map is mounted as a value. This config map is mounted as a value. Whatever config map I was showing here, that config map is mounted as a value. In that config map, is there any rules defined? Is it like empty flower bracket, kind of a empty file? There are nothing defined here. Now I modified my values. I created a values and I modified. Now I'll upgrade that Helm chart. Now I will upgrade that Helm chart. Is the config map gets created with that whatever values I have modified? And is pod gets reloaded? Is pod gets reloaded with those config maps again? Alert manager config map has no deployed release. There is a typo. Monitoring. Now I am upgrading that Prometheus release using this values file. Now is the config map get updated now? Whatever config map earlier it was having that empty alert rules. Now can I see some alert rules there? Now do you see some alert rules here? Earlier, instead of empty, in that config map, do I have these alert rules? That file content alert manager YML. Now after reloading your pod gets reloaded. Now can I see that alert rules in my pod? Now it is still not reloaded. Your pod is not reloaded. It will be done automatically, because there is another container, sidecar container. So it is able to identify there is a change in the config map. The config map got reloaded. Now can I see that alert rule.yaml in that pod, in that container? Now do I have some configurations here in that? Now when I go to this Prometheus, now if I refresh, can I see those alerts here? Alerts here. Now total 5 alerts are there. Now out of these 5 alerts, do I already have one alert in an amber state? Kind of a pending state? It is not yet fired. When this will be fired? If this is in a same state for 2 minutes, is this alert gets fired? It is not yet fired. Does Prometheus will start firing this alert if it is in a same state? The pods are in a not ready state. These two pods are in a not ready state. Now after some time, can I see that alert in a firing state? Once it is in a firing state, does alert manager, does Prometheus will push that alert to alert manager here? Once Prometheus fires that alert, can I see that alert in the alert manager here? Here? Yes. So it is in a same state for 2 minutes, more than 2 minutes or 5 minutes. it will start firing into the firing state. Now instead of amber state, I can see in a firing state. Once it is in a firing state, then it will push the alert to the alert manager here. I can see one alert here. No alerts found as of now, but if this starts firing the alert, I can see that there. Now this alert manager, is it configured with some SMTP details now? Email configuration, email notifications now here. Now, does alert manager will send the alerts once it is received that alert? Now you can see here, do I have a 2 alerts now in the alert manager because Prometheus has fired that alert. Now can I see that alert in a fire state, red state? Now alert manager receive the alert. Now do I have 2 alerts here? The alert manager, 2 alerts here in the alert manager, yes. Now, as per the configurations, whatever I have given, I will get that into my mail ID. I have given this as a 2 mail ID, this as a 2 mail ID. I should get a mail here. But do I need to do some kind of a modifications in the Gmail settings? Whatever from mail ID I have used, in that from mail ID, do I need to do some kind of a modification settings? Since it's a Gmail, you need to do a lot of settings there. Now I have not yet received the alert. I have not yet received the alert. So this is the mail ID I have given as a 2 mail ID, but I have not yet received the alert. Why I have not received the alert? Let's see. Let me see the logs of your alert manager. Let me see the logs of alert manager. Now this is my alert manager pod, kubectl logs, that alert manager pod. I am giving monitoring namespace, and there are 2 containers. There are 2 containers, so you can give this name also if required. But already it is defaulted to this container. If you want to see the logs of specific container, you can use -c, that container name. Now if you see, do I have some logs? Notification attempt failed in the alert manager. Can I see some logs saying that notification attempt is failed, username and password not accepted, some kind of a error it is throwing? Even though I have given correct username, even though I have given correct username, why it is failing? Since it's a Gmail, do you need to do some kind of a settings, enable that less secure, that less secure or unsecure? Is there something called less secure app? Do you need to unlock the captcha, all those things, since it is a Gmail? Yes. But if it is not a Gmail, if it is a valid SMTP, official SMTP, no need to do anything. Now I will take this address, this URL. This URL I am going to take. I am going to take this URL, support.google.com, that one. I'll open a private window. I'll open a private window because in this window I already logged into one Gmail. Let me open a private window. I'll log in. I'll log in first. I'll log in first. First, let me log in. I will do this later. Let me log into the Gmail. To that from mail ID, whatever mail ID you have used as a from mail ID, I will log into that from mail ID. This is my from mail ID I have given. I log in with that correct password. I log in with this password. Now here, what I will do? First, I will go to this settings. I'll go to this settings. So I already got alert from Gmail saying that some wrong, someone is trying to access. Yes, it is me only. I have accessed that. Then I'll go to this Gmail. I'll go to this settings, this Gmail, manage my Gmail account, manage my Google account. I'll go to the security. Here, there is something called, where is that? Less secure apps. I will turn on this one. First, I need to enable this one. I'll turn on this one. do that. Once that is done, there is another step also. My password is correct. I have enabled the less secure apps. I have done that one also. Now click on this one. Click on this one, unlock captcha. So now I need to unlock that captcha also. Now I have done that one. I have enabled less secure apps. By opening this URL, I got a link. I got a link to unlock the captcha. I have done that one also. Now again check the logs. Again check the logs after some time. Again check the logs after some time. Now here you see, is the notification is success now? I mean to say, is alert manager able to successfully notify? Which means, should I have received the email? That email to whatever two mail ID I have given, will I able to see that mail now? Now, do I see one mail here, Prometheus alert? Can I see one mail from this mail ID? Can I see one Prometheus alert saying that? So pod, the pod in this namespace, this pod has been in a non-ready state for more than 5 minutes. It is giving some kind of a information that Prometheus pod is pending for so long. In this pod is in a pending state for some time. Now you are a DevOps engineer, or you are a support guy, or you are a developer. Can you go ahead and start working on that issue? Why that is in a pending state? Suppose you are into a support, you are into a DevOps. Now I am a DevOps engineer. Now can I connect to that cluster? Can I see in that namespace, do I really have a pods in pending state? If it is really pods are in pending state, then can I see why it is in pending state? Now this pending state because of insufficient CPU. Now I can see because my node capacity itself is less, it is not able to accommodate. Then can I modify this one? Or can I increase can I change the instance types? If you really need this pod with the two CPUs, can I change the instance types also in my node pool? Or I will reduce whatever required. I can reduce the request, or I can change the server, server types. Instead of t3.large, I can take another type also based on the requirement. Now I am reducing. Let me apply this. Whether you are doing manually, whether you are doing pipeline, that doesn't matter. If you are doing it via pipeline, can I change this YML in the source code and commit? Then your pipeline will start trigger again and apply that. Whether you are doing manually, whether you are doing pipeline, that doesn't matter here. Now I have fixed the problem. Now is my parts are in a running state now? Is my parts are in a running state now? Yes. Now if I go to the Prometheus now, if I go to the Prometheus here, let me refresh this page. But it will take some time. It will take some time. Scrap interval, based on the scrap interval. After some time, am I able to see this in a amber state now? Now do you see? Is it in amber or red? Do I have any active alert, active firing alert as of now? No. Which means, am I going to getting a mails continuously? Now, I got a one more mail because I have not taken any action. Like I got a one more mail, but after this issue is fixed, does the team will get continuously notifications from that Prometheus alert manager once the issue is fixed? No. So this way, if I have a monitoring also in place, the way we are continuously doing integration deployment, here I have a continuous monitoring also. If I have this continuous monitoring, is it monitoring my servers and is it monitoring my Kubernetes pods, deployments, volumes, all those things also if required? And is it notifying the I mean to say people, the support people? Is this continuous monitoring is keep on monitoring your cluster, your nodes, and is it notifying the support team? Is that support team is taking some action and again modifying or fixing the problems? Again back to source code. Now, is this support team or development team is start working on that issues, whether if it is an application issue or something Kubernetes related issues, application issues, they can fix that code. If it is an infrastructure issue, they can fix the infrastructure. Now again, is it like a loop? Is it like a loop? Continuous integration, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring. Is it like a cycle? You are continuously integrating your code, you are continuously deploying that code, and you are monitoring that applications or infrastructure. Again, kind of a loop. So same diagram we have explained on the first day. Same diagram we have explained on the first day when Bhaskar sir has explained what is DevOps, what do you mean by DevOps, what is all these things. Now on the last day, again I am trying to conclude with same architecture, same flow. But this time I hope you are very clear what is what. And the first day you are not clear, but today I hope you are very clear about what is what here in this diagram. Why we need this SCM, why we need this CI, CD, what is Docker, what is Kubernetes, why we need all these things. What do you mean by server? What do you mean by network? What do you mean by storage? What do you mean by infrastructure? Is everyone clear, guys? Whatever diagram I have explained, we have explained on the first day. We are trying to conclude with same diagram on the last day. But to make you understand this complete process, the DevOps lifecycle, DevOps process, DevOps methodology, for us, it took how many months? I'm not sure when your batch is started. I think your batch is started December 19th, right? December 19th. Yes. Now it is May 22nd, almost 5 months. We tried from very basics. We started with very basics. What is LS? What is MKDIR? What is PWD? We started with very basics like Linux commands. Then we went through a lot of advanced concepts like Docker, Kubernetes, Ansible, Jenkins. You can easily crack the interview. You can easily manage your work also. But I am not saying it is straightforward because requirements will change. You are not going to have the same requirements. Requirements will change. But if you are good at basics, if you are good at concept, based on the requirement, will be able to write your own pipelines, also if required. If you know the concepts, you can do. But if you by heart the script, if you by heart the pipelines, that is not going to work out. Now, before I conclude this one, now does Prometheus has a nice visualization, guys? Any non-technical guy want to know what is happening in the servers, what is happening in the cluster? Does Prometheus has a nice visualization, nice representation here? No. We can use Grafana. We can use Grafana for that. Again, one more doubt you have. Sir, let's say I have another cluster. Again, in another cluster also, do I need to have that Prometheus Grafana setup? Yes. For another cluster also, you can have Prometheus that Grafana setup. Basically, how you will have, right? Like dev dot Prometheus dot something like this. The URLs will be something like this. Dev dot Prometheus dot some that company, whatever project you are working. Let's say you are working for a project called LIC, something like this. Is this domain points to the dev cluster Prometheus? Yes. If you have a QA cluster, do I need to set up again same thing in the QA also? But QA, I will have a different domain like this, qa.prometheus.lic.com. Now, if I have a production cluster, can I have that Prometheus setup, Grafana setup, alert manager setup for production also by pointing to prod dot or just prometheus.lic.com? Prod, you no need to mention. You see, this is like a prod only. So do I need to have these setups in each and every cluster also, like dev cluster, QA cluster, production cluster, the way I have done in single cluster? Yes. Now, let me set up Grafana. As of now, I don't have Grafana. Let me set up Grafana. Now, Grafana is also available as a Helm chart. Grafana also available as a Helm chart. This is the Helm chart of Grafana. Let me show that. Let me go to that artifact hub. Let me search with Grafana. Guys, if I use this, as I already told, is Grafana also gets deployed along with the dashboards also, the important or dashboards also? Yes. But I am not using this one. I am using different one, that Prometheus chart. So I am explicitly again installing Grafana. So this chart, Grafana chart. Now I am adding a repository. I am adding a repository. I am installing something like this. I am installing something like this. Helm install Grafana. The chart name is Grafana, repo name is Grafana. In monitoring namespace. In monitoring namespace, I am doing that. Now I am installing in monitoring namespace. Now can I see something called Grafana related pod services also? Now kubectl get all in monitoring namespace. Now can I see something called Grafana related pod is also running? There is a deployment for Grafana created. There is a service for Grafana created. But again, it's a cluster IP service. Again, it's a cluster IP service. Now, can I create a ingress rule for that one also, so that I can access something like this? Again, something like this. Grafana.mithuntechdevops.co.in. So service name also Grafana. Just a service name is also Grafana. Grafana. Now let me apply this. Let me apply that. Now in my route 53, I'll create a one more record. Grafana.mithuntechdevops.co.in. So route the traffic to that ingress load balancer, which is there in a Mumbai region, my cluster, this load balancer. Now let me access Grafana now. Grafana.mithuntechdevops.co.in. It will take some time to reflect in the DNS. Now this is my Grafana login page. The default username is admin. The default username is admin. The default password, you can get it from one secret. So there is a secret created in that namespace. There is a secret created in namespace called monitoring. So there is a secret called Grafana. In that secret, we have that default password. I am getting that by executing this command. This is the default password of that Grafana. Now let me log into Grafana. As of now, does Grafana has any dashboards? Does Grafana has any dashboards as of now? Nothing is there. But before I create a dashboards or import the dashboards, do I need to configure the backend or data source for this Grafana? Do I need to configure the data source for this Grafana, from where it has to get the data? Yes. So I'm going to this settings button here. I'm going to this settings button here. We have something called data sources. Something called data sources. Let me click on this data source. I'll create, or I'll click on this add data source. Prometheus is one of the data source, but does Grafana supports lot of data sources like Prometheus? Does Grafana supports lot of data sources like Graphite DB, InfluxDB, Elasticsearch, Jagger, Zipkin, all these things also as a data sources? Yes. But for now, what is the data source where I have all my data about that monitoring? Who is monitoring all the servers and applications and maintaining the data? Prometheus. So I'll select this Prometheus. I'll select this Prometheus. Here I will give the Prometheus URL. Since Prometheus also running as a pod, Grafana also running as a pod in the same cluster, same namespace, can I give just a service name instead of giving external endpoints or instead of giving IP addresses or external domains? Can I give just a Kubernetes service name here? The Prometheus service name here, HTTP, that Prometheus service name. But if Prometheus is running in a different namespace and Grafana is running in a different namespace, can I give, do I need to give FQDN, fully qualified domain name? Yes. But since they are in the same namespace, can I give something like this? HTTP :/ Prometheus-server, that is the service name. And I am not giving any port also, because what is the default port of HTTP, even though you are not passing? 80. And is the service also created on 80? Is the service also created on port 80, that Prometheus? Yes. Now let me click on this save and test. Now is data source is working, which means is Prometheus is able to, sorry, is Grafana is able to reach to Prometheus using this URL? Yes. Now data source is configured. Now let me come to the dashboards. Let me come to the dashboards. This one, I'm clicking on home. If required, you are good at Prometheus query language, will you able to create your own dashboards by clicking on this plus button, create dashboard. You can add a panels, you can use all those queries here. Here you can use all those queries, whatever you are having in the Prometheus, right? Node memory, active bytes, total bytes. You can write kind of a queries and you can get the data. You can format whether it has to be in a table format or chart format. You are good at Grafana and Prometheus query language. You can create a dashboards on your own. You can create a dashboards on your own if you are good at this one. Otherwise, do we have some open source community who is creating a dashboards for us, and we can just import those dashboards, whatever already created by the community? Community in the sense people. The community is nothing but some people will contribute to this community, Prometheus community, Grafana community, like that. So there are already a lot of dashboards available in the community. So I can use those dashboards. So here I will discard this one. Let me go to again this home. Let me go to this dashboard section. Sorry, here. Let me click on this home. Let me go to this dashboard section. Here there is an option called import. I'll go to this one. I'll go to this one, this page, click on this browse. Here there is an option called import. So already a lot of community people has created a dashboards. You can find that in the official website, Grafana dashboards. Grafana dashboards. This is the official website of Grafana. This is the official website of Grafana. We have a lot of Grafana dashboards. If you see, you can search also. You can search here. Let's say node exporter related, I want to see node exporter metrics, node exporter for Prometheus dashboard in English language. Now let me click on this. Let me click on this. It is giving some ID. What is that ID? Dashboard ID, they are saying 11074. Now here in my Grafana, I can click on this import. I can give, sorry, I didn't click on import. Let me click on import. I will give that ID, that Grafana dashboard ID. I'll click on that load. Then the data source is Prometheus, because this dashboard is created for node exporter for Prometheus. So I'm importing the dashboard. Click on this import. Select the data source as Prometheus. I'm clicking on this import. Now, am I able to see in a nice visualization my node related data? You can see there are 3 nodes currently. In each node, what is happening? Now there are 3 nodes, right? 3 nodes. CPU usage is this much, memory usage is this much. How long the server is running? Do I have some servers running from last 1 week? And do I have one server which is running from last 2 days also? Just 2 days back, one server got added, and last 1 week, once 2 servers are running. CPU utilization, memory utilization, disk utilization, all these things. If required, can I say only I want to see about this server again in detail, like a filters? This server, what is happening? Now again, can I apply time interval also? Last 15 minutes, what is happening? Last 24 hours, what happened? From last 2 days, what is happening? Can I use this for troubleshooting and capacity planning? If your servers are continuously monitoring, your monitoring tools are continuously monitor your servers, can I use this for troubleshooting, capacity planning, all these things? Now, any non-technical guy also, does any non-technical guy also will be able to understand by looking at these kind of a dashboards, what is happening in your servers, your applications, like a health of your servers, health of your application. Now, similarly, there are a lot of dashboards for Kubernetes related. I want to have a Kubernetes related dashboards, cube state metrics, whatever is gathered by cube state metrics. So there are some dashboards created by community, cube state metrics. So there are some dashboards available. There are some dashboards available for cube state metrics also, like deployment related, daemon set related. Some metrics, some dashboards are available for cube state metrics also. Like this is one of the ID. This is one of the ID. Let me see if this works. 8588. Let me go to Grafana again. Let me click on here also. You can click on import in the plus button, or here you can go and browse and import, or here also you can click on import. I want to save this dashboard. Let me save this, and I'll import another dashboard. The data source is Prometheus. Now here am I able to see some Kubernetes related information? I'll just put last 15 minutes or last 5 minutes. Now am I able to see some information like this? Pods information. Now I have given some sample dashboard IDs here. Let me use this one, 1.3332. Let me import one dashboard. This one, let me load this. This is cube state metrics dashboard only. The data source is Prometheus. Now can I see in a nice visualization about my complete cluster, how much CPU, how much memory requested, how much CPU requested as of now in the complete cluster, and how many nodes are there in my cluster? Is any nodes are in not available state? Do have any node pressure, not ready state? I can see that one. And also can I see deployments? How many deployments are there? Each deployment, how many replicas are there? This deployment has 2 pods. This deployment has 2 pods, like that. Deployment details, stateful set details, parts details. Total, how many parts are there? If you see, running in my cluster, 32. And any parts are in a pending state. Any parts are in a pending state. If you see, some time back, there is a spike here. There is a spike here, which means, do we have some parts in a pending state some time back? Because intentionally I have made the mistake. Now can I see that value here? Now I can apply last 1 hour. Now last 1 hour, Do I have some parts which are in a pending state for some time, started here? Then again I fix the problem. Again I fix the problem. Again it went down. The graph went down. So which means as of now 0. But some time back, do I have some parts which are in a pending state? You can apply the specific time also. You don't want to do like this last 1 hour, 2 hour also. You can apply the time range also. Date you can select. You can select the date. Today is what? 22nd. Date range you can select, or time range also you can select, like last 5 minutes. You can modify all these things. Last 15 minutes you can modify. But if you see last 15 minutes, do I have any parts which are in a pending state? Because that happened 15 minutes back. If I go for last 1 hour, I can see. Can I see some parts which are in a pending state? So will I have a complete visualization of what is happening in my servers, my cluster, my applications? Will I have a complete visualization of my applications, my clusters, my servers, all these things using these kind of a dashboards? Now there is a separate team for this also. There is a separate team for this also in a standard companies. In some standard companies, there is a separate team. We call that as a telemetry team. Telemetry is nothing but monitoring and log aggregation. So this is how we can do this. I have given some sample dashboards here, like this type of dashboards. You can import and see how it looks, right? So let me import one more dashboard also. Sorry, let me click on that. Import. This is, there is a space. There is a space. That's why it was giving a problem. Now some kind of a dashboard. Again, it is Kubernetes cluster related only. How many pods are running, how many pods are in pending state, like this. So this is dashboard. Now if you see these dashboards again is created, is it using that Prometheus query language like that? If you see, let me click on this section, number of nodes, click on this edit button. Now can I see something like queries only here? Whatever queries we were discussed in PromSQL, some of Kubernetes node info, but it is displaying some nice visualization, some panels. So Grafana is just a visualization tool. It's not a monitoring tool. Is everyone clear? What is Prometheus? What is Grafana? What is Alert Manager? What is Node Exporter, Cube State Metrics? How to monitor all these things? Now, one more thing, important one, but not the least one. Do we have another type called log aggregation and log monitoring? Log monitoring and log aggregation also. What do you mean by log aggregation and log monitoring? Let's say you have Kubernetes clusters, you have a lot of nodes, your applications are deployed as a microservices. Is it easy for you to troubleshoot as a developer, as a DevOps engineer? If any issue is happening, any defect is there in the application, is it easy for you to trace the logs and identify the issue using kubectl logs command? If you have hundreds of servers, hundreds of applications, is it very simple for troubleshooting the application related logs? Is it possible for you to go through each and every node and identify the logs of that particular application or container? It is very difficult. So do we need to aggregate all these logs, and is it, do I need to create some kind of a central server where I can store all the logs from all the applications, all the nodes? And if I have some UI for searching the logs also, will it be helpful for developers or DevOps engineers to aggregate and search the logs in a nice UI instead of going and each and every node troubleshooting? It will be good to have a kind of a central server where we can have a logs and we can search the logs. I think I already explained. Did you guys heard about this Splunk and Elasticsearch and Logstash? Logstash can be replaced. Logstash can be replaced with other things also. Instead of Logstash, you can use Fluent D, or you can use FileBeat. These are agents, and Kibana Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana you can use. Elasticsearch, Fluent D, Kibana you can use. Elasticsearch, Fluent D, Kibana you can use. Instead of ELK, you can use EFK. Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, or Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana. You can use this one. Instead of Logstash, you can use FileBeat or FluentD. These are like agents. These Logstash, FluentD kind of agents. If I run these agents like Logstash agent, FileBeat agent, or this FluentD agents in each and every node, is that FileBeat or FluentD or Logstash is going to send all the logs whatever is getting generated from the containers which is running in that system, or the system logs also, or container logs also, to the Elasticsearch? Does Elasticsearch will gather the logs with the help of this Logstash or FluentD or FileBeat to one central location? Yes. Kibana is again visualization. Using Kibana, can I search the logs which is stored in the Elasticsearch in a nice UI by applying the time filters also there? Yes. This is also very important. This is also very important. So there is a detailed video. Explained in our YouTube channel. I think I asked you to went through some time back. Did you guys went through that video, that Elasticsearch, FileBeat, and Kibana? There is one video in detail. We were discussing about what is that log aggregation, log monitoring, why that is important. This one, Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana. So this document also I'm going to share, guys. This document also I'm going to share. This also can be installed using Helm charts only. This Elasticsearch, FileBeat, Kibana also can be installed using Elasticsearch. Whatever document I used in this video, I'm going to share that document also and go through this video and try to set up this one also. Does this will be helpful for developers and DevOps engineers for searching the logs and troubleshooting the issues which is happening in your applications, exceptions, errors, what is happening in your application, your containers? Yes. So this is also very important. Okay, guys, that's it from my side. Thank you for your time on the last day also. Almost I took more than 2 hours today, but I hope you never felt, uh, like what is this guy Balaji? He's taking every day 2 hours of my time, 2.5 hours of my time. I think you didn't felt like that. It is for your better understanding only. I am trying to repeat so many things multiple times. If I just explain once, if I just explain only one time, I can wrap up the session in half an hour or 1.5 hours also. But it will be good if you extend your time. Hope you understood that. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your trust on the Mithun Technologies. We hope, as a trainer, we hope we delivered a quality training from Mithun Technologies. But as I say from day one, unless until you put efforts from your side also, unless until you put your efforts from your side also, it is very difficult for you to understand all these things. As I told many times, if you just attend, not only in Mithun Technologies, if you just enrolled in any course in any training center, if you don't put time, if you don't spend time to understand, attend the classes, practice, you will not able to learn anything. So make sure you go through these videos. Kubernetes videos may work for another 60 days also. Kubernetes videos may work for another 60 days also. Use these 60 days more efficiently. Docker videos may work from another 30 days from now. Kubernetes videos may work for another 60 days from now. So try to go through these videos, do lot of hard work, lot of practice, and again, right, appear for interviews. Definitely you can crack the job. There is no doubt in that. But you need to spend time. You need to do lot of hard work, lot of practice. Okay. Thank you guys. I wish you very all the best for your future endeavors and interviews. As we already told, whoever is attending the interviews, post their interview questions in the Skype group also. The way we are posting, make sure you guys also posting the interviews, whatever you are attending, in the Skype group, so that it will be beneficial for others.
I can ask a question.
Yes.
Sir, how to prepare for Terraform, sir? Because in every interview job description they are putting Terraform.
Terraform, if you want to prepare, you need to either enroll for a complete Terraform course. If you are good at self-learning, we already shared our Terraform playlist, but that is like a basics level. That is basic level, not advanced level, but it is good to start. It is like a foundation, kind of a ABCs in Terraform. We have a playlist in our YouTube channel, Terraform playlist also there. Where is that? Yeah, here. So we already, I think Bhaskar sir already shared the basic documents. It is good to start here, but I am not saying you will become expert if you attend only this. We have a separate course for Terraform where we are covering complete AWS also with Terraform. You can enroll for that one. But if you are good at self-learning, this is good to start. You can explore on your own. This Terraform official website also gives better details. Okay, guys, as we already told, DevOps is not a technology. DevOps is not a tool. It's a methodology. It's a process. It's a one kind of a culture. We will be using lot of tools, but is everyone is going to work on each and every tool whatever we are going to use to implement DevOps? No. Some people will work on infrastructure. Some people will work on Kubernetes and Docker and CI/CD. Some people will work on networking. Some people will work on monitoring. But based on the which team you are landing, based on your capabilities, based on your technical skills and your capabilities, they are going to recruit into the team. Then you need to focus more on that area in whatever team you are working. Let's say you are more working on the infrastructure side. Do you need to start learning any automation tool, infrastructure as a code like Terraform, and also complete DevOps, complete cloud also required there if you are completely into cloud. But if you are into CI/CD like Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, you can manage. And again, here we are teaching Jenkins. But does all the projects, 100 projects, 100, let's say you have 100 projects, does all the 100 projects will use again Jenkins? No. Some projects will use Jenkins, some projects will use GitLab, some projects will use Azure DevOps. But again, in that particular area, you need to be expert in one tool. But once you are familiar in one tool, will you able to adapt and learn other tool very quickly? Yes. But without knowing what is CI, what is CD, you cannot manage. So based on the requirement, based on the companies you are joining, based on the projects you are working, these tools may change. Some projects may use Azure DevOps, some project may use GitLab, some projects may use like Bamboo also. How can we answer DevOps engineer daily activities? Abhishek, I hope you attended Bhaskar sir resume preparation session. He has covered in 2 days. Did Bhaskar sir already explained how to answer all these things? What is your roles and responsibilities? What is your day-to-day activities? Did you guys attended that session or you missed? So basically any day-to-day activity if you take, The first thing you need to make sure whether your pipelines are running smoothly or not. You have created a lot of pipelines, your CI pipelines, CD pipelines. First and foremost thing, do we need to make sure whatever pipelines we already created are running smoothly or not. If there are any issues, maybe network issue, maybe storage issue, maybe server issue, if your pipelines are not working as expected, do you need to troubleshoot and fix those pipelines first as a first priority on the day? Before starting any new pipeline, you need to make sure that pipelines are working smoothly. Pipelines will may fail for many reasons. That can be network issue, that can be a storage issue, that can be a server issue. It may fail. So you need to fix that problem as a priority first. Next thing, backlogs, automation backlogs. If there is any new project onboarded, if there is any new project onboarded or any new microservices created by the development team, do you need to support the development team starting from creating a SCM repository, granting the permissions to that SCM repository, creating a CA pipeline for that repository, CD pipeline for that repository, for any new microservice started writing by the developers, starting from SCM to CA, CD, and all these things as a DevOps engineer, do you need to support? Managing the permissions to that repository, configuring pipelines for that application, all those things. Automation backlog. And as a DevOps engineer, do we need to focus more on where can we improve the process? Wherever it is possible, wherever you are doing lot of manual work, do you need to take initiative yourself and suggest some kind of automation there? You need to take initiative yourself. Wherever you are doing lot of manual work, you need to see whether this can be automated, whether it is a infrastructure creation, whether it's a configuration, whether it's a deployment. Do you need to focus on the automation? Yes. Now coming to the respective tools, then if you are working on Git, what is your roles and responsibilities in Git? What do you do using Git? As a DevOps engineer, are you responsible for creating a SCM repositories, granting the permissions to the SCM repositories, and defining a branching strategies for the team in the SCM? Yes. As a DevOps engineer, what do you do in the Nexus? Are you responsible for creating and managing the artifacts? I mean to say repositories in the artifactories like Nexus or JFrog? Yes. And also, what is your roles and responsibilities in SonarQube? As a DevOps engineer, do you need to configure SonarQube by working with a development architect? Do you need to create a quality gates, quality profiles, quality gates in the SCM? The rules will be provided by architect or a technical lead. You need to configure all those things. And what is your roles and responsibilities in a AWS? If you are working in the infrastructure side also, what do you do in AWS? As a DevOps engineer, if you are working in the infrastructure side also, are you responsible for creating the infrastructure required for our applications and softwares to run in AWS, like a servers, network storage, databases, load balancers, IAM policies, permissions, all those things in AWS, taking a backups of volumes based on the requirement? Yes. And again, if you are working on infrastructure side, is it a best practice to create an infrastructure using console manually? Does people will do it manually using console? No. So if you are working on an infrastructure side, are you going to use some kind of infrastructure as a code software like Terraform? Then can I have that also as a separate code base? Can I maintain the Terraform scripts also in a separate code base like a ops repo, kind of a ops repo? Can I use that repo in my pipeline also using Jenkins? Can I clone that ops repo where I have some Terraform scripts and run the Terraform scripts via Jenkins to create an infrastructure first if required? Once that infrastructure is ready, can I run my app pipelines, application pipelines to build and deploy that application in the infrastructure which is provisioned? Yes. But are you going to run that app, that infrastructure pipelines frequently, the way you are going to run the application pipelines frequently? Does the infrastructure pipelines will be executed every day, every hour, or every week like that? No. Infrastructure is like when you are provisioning for the first time. Here and there, whenever small changes, you will rerun. Otherwise, no. Now, if you are using Jenkins, what do you do using Jenkins? As a DevOps engineer, what is your role in Jenkins? You are responsible for CI and CD. Don't say I am creating a job like that. You can say that using Jenkins, what you are doing? Using Jenkins, am I able to do the continuous integration and continuous deployment or delivery? Then you explain about the pipelines. Using Jenkins, I am doing continuous integration. Explain what do you mean by continuous integration. Then explain what do you mean by continuous deployment or delivery. Then start work, saying about I am creating a jobs, I am creating a stages like this, all those things. I am responsible for taking the backups of Jenkins. I am responsible for creating the jobs in Jenkins. I am responsible for granting the permissions in Jenkins based on the requirement again. And if you are using Docker Swarm, then what do you do? I will share this one also if you have not yet received. I'll share this one also if you have not yet received. What do you do in Docker? If you are using Dockers and Kubernetes, are you responsible for creating the clusters, creating images and deploying those applications in the cluster? I mean to say creating a Docker files, clusters, all those things. If you are using Kubernetes, are you responsible for managing the Kubernetes cluster, setting up the Kubernetes cluster? I'm going to give this one also, but these are something, but on top of it, you can add your own content. If you are using Docker with the Docker Swarm, are you responsible for these things, like responsible for Dockerizing the applications, configuring the Docker containers and creating a Docker files, strong experience in writing Docker files, compose files, responsible for creating and managing the private registries for Docker, using CI/CD, building a pipelines, deploying the pipelines like this. If you are using Kubernetes, these are something, but you can add on top of it your own based on your understanding. Is everyone clear? What is what? These are your jobs, your day-to-day activities, your roles and responsibilities. Now I am going to share one more document also. If you have not yet received that document, this is what I have explained a few minutes back. Day-to-day activities, day-to-day activities. Make sure the pipelines are running smoothly. This is what I have explained few seconds back. You need to interact with other teams like development team, QA team to automate the process. You need to work on the automation backlog, and you need to, one more important thing here, guys, in IT, if you want to survive in IT, one more thing you need to learn. I mean to say one more thing you need to adapt personally: continuous learning also. Continuous learning also. The way we have a continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous delivery. If you want to be in IT, if you want to survive for a so long with good package and a safe zone, you need to adapt this one also yourself. Continuous learning. You need to learn something new. Not like every day, like every month or every quarter, learn something new. Some technology, some tool new. What are the challenges you faced in Kubernetes? How did you solve? Now you guys worked Kubernetes, you guys used Kubernetes 25 days you practice. Did you guys face some challenges also? Even though I'm taking some sample, applications, did you guys face some challenges? Just to name it few, suppose, just to give an example, I'm, let's say Docker. When I was discussing about Docker or Docker file, Did I say something? We faced an issue with the Docker. When I was explaining about Docker file, I have explained one challenge which I faced personally. What is that challenge? If you guys can remember, did I say there is a executable form and shell form? When I am started the containers using shell form, did we encounter some issues when the containers are getting terminated? The process is not getting stopped properly. So instead of that, what we used executable form. That is kind of one challenge, one problem. In Kubernetes also, first and foremost thing, as a DevOps engineer, what is the challenges you face? First and foremost thing is learning. Learning curve is too much, and you need to adapt. You need to adapt the things quickly. This is personally, not technically. This is personally. As a DevOps engineer, do you have a lot of challenges to learn lot of topics, and also do you need to adapt the things quickly? Personal challenges, forget about technical challenges. Do you need to adapt the things quickly and start using that? Do you need to have a lot of learning curve? This is personal challenges. But when it comes to technical challenges, when it comes to technical challenges, do have a lot of challenges technically also in each tool. In Jenkins, you may face some issues. In Docker, you may face some issues. Kubernetes, you may face some issues. Like Kubernetes, just to give an example, application teams will do a lot of mistakes. They may wrongly configure the routing rules or the deployments. They'll wrongly configure, even though the pods are running, because of some misconfigurations or invalid configurations. Is that application will work as expected? No. In that case, do you need to help that guy to troubleshoot and fix the problem? So the challenge is nothing but whatever issues you are facing. That issue can be small, that issue can be big, but try to answer some meaningful challenges. Remember one or two challenges and answer, right? You might have already faced too many challenges. Is everyone clear? Anyone has any doubt still on any question? You can feel free to ask. I am going to share this
Sir,
document
like
also.
Prometheus
Just
and
yes, yeah, go ahead.
sir, like Prometheus and Grafana shall is like service now or Jira like to configure for monitoring and all.
ServiceNow and Jira is it comes under
Mm.
monitoring software?
They are
Is
ticketing
is it
tools.
comes? Hmm. Those are ticketing tools. Ticketing tools are different. Monitoring tools are different. What is the use of ticketing tools? So how can I track what work is going on? Who is working on what task? And what is the progress on the task? Do I need some kind of a tracking or ticketing tool where I can create a ticket saying that this is also kind of one ticket? Let's say I have a requirement saying that create a Jenkins CI and CD pipeline for so and so project. For let's say order microservice. For this project, this is one task. Now can I create one ticket in Jira? Can I assign it to one DevOps engineer so that he can say what is happening? He'll say this is in progress. He'll say I'll start, this is in progress. He will make that in progress. And in daily scrum calls or day-to-day meetings, that Kanban board, there will be a concept called Kanban board. Kanban board will be created for that sprint. There it will list what are the backlogs of that sprint, what are in progress, what are in testing. Now the scrum master will ask, what are you working, what did you do yesterday, what are you planning to do today, do you have any blockers? Let's say you are working on this. If you have some blockers, some issues, you can tell, I have these blockers, these issues, I am working on it. So this is kind of a Jira is kind of a ticketing tool. Jira is kind of a ticketing tool. That service is now change management. Change management. What do you mean by change management? Whenever you are trying to do some changes in the production, especially for production, do you need to create a service now ticket where you need to define what change you are trying to do as part of this release, what applications are going to be impacted? Do you need to attach all the approval mails also? QA approval mail, BA approval mail, product manager approvals mail. Once the all the mails are approved, all the stakeholders are approved, then only you can do that change in the production. This is like a change management for production release. Right? These are like a ticketing tools and monitor. These are not monitoring tools. Bhaskar sir already explained this in the resume preparation. Any other questions, please? Okay, if not, thank you. Thank you once again for your time, your trust on Mithun Technologies. Again, I am requesting whoever not yet shared the feedback, kindly share your feedback. Feedback is important to us. It will kind of boost our energy. And wish you very all the best for your future interviews and endeavors. Right? Terraform documents, Bhaskar sir will share. I don't have that handy. And people are saying, sir, I am little scared to attend the interview. Guys, go with clear state of mind. Attend the interview. Let them ask whatever they want to ask. Even though they are asking about ABC, you start explaining about XYZ, nothing will happen. The way you are interacting with us, interviewer also interact with you. There is no change. Don't have any fear in your mind. Let interview ask about ABC. You start explaining about XYZ also. That is fine. Nothing will happen. What will happen? They'll say, you are not selected. First interview, fine. Second interview also, fine. But will you have some confidence and how to handle in the interview, how to talk in the interviews also? With the third interview or fourth interview, will you have some confidence and knowledge also how to handle yourself in the interviews? Yes. So don't worry, nothing will happen. Everyone will go through that phase only. Even me, today I can talk in front of 1,000 people also in any conference, any meeting. But if you don't trust, 13 years back, I went to interviews as a fresher. I went to 2 3 companies in front of the gate only. By looking at that crowd in front of the gate in that company, I scared and I came back. You don't trust that one. First company I went like that. Second company, somehow with a lot of kind of a fear, I went inside the company. The moment HR called me, I ran out of the company. HR called my turn. You don't trust. All these things are common for everyone in everyone's life because people come from a different backgrounds. But finally I realized myself, this is not going to work out. If I ran out of these challenges, I will never become a software engineer. I will never settle down. So with whatever mindset I am telling now, I went with same mind state. But I am very good at technical, but I am not good at communicating that time because we were from a rural background. We were not studied in English medium. We were not into like city culture and all those things 14 15 years back. But finally, 1 or 2 interviews, I am able to manage myself and I get into the IT. Now I can stand in front of 1,000 people. Let VP is there, CEO is there. That doesn't matter for me. So experience matters. Interview also kind of a experience. Don't get fear. Don't get fear. Okay. Go with whatever flow. But you need to sit after the interview. You need to sit yourself. You need to sit yourself and you need to retrospect yourself. What interviewer has asked, what I am talking, whether whatever answer I am giving, whether it is right or not. Even though I know the answer, am I able to properly explain the answer? You need to retrospect yourself after the interview is done so that you can improve yourself. but you need to take risk. You need to take a courage to take the challenges. Then only you can successful, guys. Any questions? If not, thank you, guys. Wish you all the best. Someone is asking, sir, can you switch on your camera? Okay, I don't want that to be recorded in the video. I'm stopping the recording and I'm switching on the camera. Just give me a second.